Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the UBC Learning Circle. And we are so privileged to be here in this virtual space and physically on Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Squamish unceded territory. And I'm thrilled to have my friend Evan Adams here. And I'm going to introduce him to you. And then we'll talk a little bit about the format. And welcome all of you. I can see some old friends. It's so great on video conference and a number of people on webinar. And this is great. This is a chance for us to find out the real Dr. Evan Adams. And we
an expose.
Oh, and I'll introduce myself. Sorry, I didn't do that. My name is Leah Walker, and I am the Associate Director for Education for the Center for Excellence in Indigenous Health. My ancestry is Danish, lots of white privilege, and it's so true, and English and Nakatma, and my family kinship ties are with Seabird Island, relatives there. I'd also like to acknowledge all of the people that are in this room. We have Lena and Catherine behind the scenes helping out, and Davina, and we are also privileged to have an elder here that I love and respect and has been at UBC for a long time. And she's sitting over there, and so it's really nice to know that you're here. Okay, so Dr. Evan Adams, and I've got it 2 here. I didn't know you had it. Dr. Evan Tesla 2 Adams. That's great. You have to tell me about that. Is a Coast Salish physician and actor from the Sliammon First Nation near Powell River, BC. Aside from his career in arts, we all know about that, right? Dr. Adams has a medical doctorate at the University of Calgary, and he completed his Aboriginal family practice residency in which he was chief resident at St. Paul's Hospital in Vancouver, and has a Master's of Public Health from Johns Hopkins Blomberg. Okay, this is such a long, he's got so many things, right? You're first at everything. He's also the past president of the Indigenous Physicians Association of Canada, the former director of the Division of Aboriginal People's Health, so he was my boss before we became the Center for Excellence at UBC's Faculty of Medicine. He also won a 2014 Inspire Award in Health. My gosh. Welcome, Evan.
Thank you. It's so nice to be back here.
It's really nice to have you here. So what we're going to do today is Dr. Adams would like to show you a PowerPoint, and then we're going to get into some nitty-gritty questions. I'd like to ask him something about his pathway to becoming a chief medical officer and some of his challenges and also some of the joys of doing the work that you do and what you do. And I know some of that will be in the PowerPoint. And there will be an opportunity for all of you as well to ask any questions. So we'll make sure that on video conference you have the opportunity to as well as on webinar. Does that sound good? Now, is the PowerPoint uploaded? It's not uploaded. So maybe we'll actually change. Is that okay?
We'll do the interview portion and then I'll talk to you kind of formally about my office's function.
That would be great.
Great, but I really wanted to be here and encourage our health workers across the province. So I'm happy to talk about, to answer questions around the whole theme of health and working in health.
Mm-hmm. And how you got to where you are. Mm-hmm. And that would be the first question. So if you can imagine yourself as a young boy.
Which is a long time ago. But I can still imagine it.
It's so funny how we all feel like we're still our child, our little child, right? Do you remember, did you ever think you'd end up where you are?
Absolutely not, no. But I definitely grew up feeling like working with the people was very honorable. My idea of service and the stuff that I was taught around helping others is very clear in my mind and always has been. So even when I was a bimbo actor, I call it.
You say that. It's not true.
But it was very...
It's an honorable profession, too.
It is. And I think it's very important that people have different jobs. But definitely later on in life, like in my late 20s, I thought, I better do some stuff that's helpful to the people. So I came back to science, came back to health, and, I'm really happy.
Wow.
Sometimes I think, oh gosh, look at Adam Beach. He's just been cast in this movie or that movie, And I think, oh, that was a world that I used to be involved in, and that used to be important to me. I wonder what it would have been like to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not unhappy even when I have those thoughts. Mostly I'm happy to work with the people. It's really an honor. Yeah. I mean that it's an honor to be around people and deal with their, their issues. Often I speak to people when they're having, quite dramatic events in their lives. Yeah.
I guess I think they're both healing. I just want to offer that because I think in your role as CMO and as a physician, I think that you do get an opportunity to respond to people's issues in a way where you maybe feel like you can make a big difference. However, I do also want to say, and I bet you our audience would concur, that acting is really about feeling those thoughts and being all those people that most of us don't have the courage to be. And so you become our voice. And, Thomas Builds the Fire or any of those characters are our voices for us,
Yeah, they were meant to tell our stories and help people feel included. To have their story included in the story that we were telling. That there was a room for you and where you're from. And, that's definitely the idea. And I think over time now, I appreciate that being a doctor is not central to wellness, that there are many other players, including cultural workers, whose work is as important or more important in the whole picture of health and wellness. Like elders. Elders can often play a way bigger role in someone's health outcomes than a doctor. So that's really actually quite affirming.
Can you tell me a little bit about some of the elders in your life, including your parents, just speaking about elders?
Yeah, so my father was an orphan, and my mother went to residential school when she was 3. And when I was growing up, my father separated me from, I had I think a traditional upbringing in that the boys were separated from the girls. So I was with my dad, and my sisters were with my mom, and he would take me out and visit the elders, because that's just how it was done. And so I was always meeting these little old ladies and men, older men, and talking with them. That was just a normal part of our day. And I think for many other people, they weren't rich like that. They weren't wealthy like that. But I was. So I would always kind of take to heart what they were saying, and they were so compelling and interesting. And they had lots to say about how a young person should be, and I would just hear them. Thank goodness. And of course, we were all listening. I think every one of us was listening as best we could at that time. I think a lot of us wish we had listened better, but I'm glad to be in a position now to look back and say, oh yeah, I heard that. I heard that lots of times. I did my best hundreds of times to hear elders, and I guess it helps me. It's nice to look back, because I know you did the same thing.
Totally. And I have memories of just going to your community and meeting some of those elders and some of those voices that may no longer be with us, but they become our stories now as they become yours. So when did you leave Tla'amin?
Gosh,
can you remember that?
Yes, I left home when I was 14. And sometimes I have to remind the young people, because I meet my young cousins, and I have to ask them who their parents are. Now I have to ask them who their grandparents are. It's been so long. I left home in 1981. That's a long time to be away from your home community. And I feel quite connected to that place, to my home, but it was a long time ago.
You still have a home there?
Oh yeah, I actually literally have a home there. I have a cabin there just off reserve. And I go there every second weekend. I love seeing my parents. It's just time. It's just, I spend a lot of time doing other things that were not related to my culture and community and language. And it's time now to kind of take that back up. And I hope everyone listening is doing the same thing. They're spending some of their time learning our songs and learning our greetings and hosting and having ceremony and doing those activities that our elders used to do.
Those things are more, I just love how you brought that back into a circle again,
Yeah.
because those are the things that you said right at the very beginning here, talking about cultural workers and that work that has a big impact on our health and well-being.
Well, the First Nations Health Authority, first and foremost, belongs to First Nations people. We're accountable to First Nations people, the customer owner. And so when I'm asked to do something like a cancer framework or an overview of cancer services, I do it with the mind that, I have to talk to First Nations people about this and report to them, instead of thinking, I have to report to the government or a bunch of doctors. And it makes it very different. It makes it very, very different. And it's really a pleasure.
Does it make it harder or easier?
For me, it makes it easier because, like I said, I was trying to listen to the people I feel connected to, our ways of being and knowing. And I can feel it when they say, we need to hear more about cancer. Can you collect your best thoughts about it? And they say, yes, of course. And it makes the work almost holy and makes it really important to get it right. Whereas with doctors, if I was reporting to other doctors about cancer, I would be trying to be smart.
Sorry, there's actually no audio on the webinar at all right now.
Oh.
Davina switched over a computer. I'm not too sure why.
Because they weren't receiving it from here.
That doesn't matter. This is the volume control right there. So if we can just pause, sorry, for a moment.
Yeah.
And the PowerPoint is up.
Okay.
And hopefully people can hear us. They can't hear us at all.
Not in the webinar. On the video conference,
video
so you can
conference,
talk to,
they can.
say hello, maybe check in who's
Yay. Okay. So I'm sorry about webinar, because it's all the best stuff. It's all about where you're from, and it's about what drives you to do the work that you do. And the stories, right? It's the elders.
Yeah.
Was there a moment?
Sorry.
Was there a moment that you said that you wanted to be a doctor?
It took me a long time to say I wanted to be a doctor. When you're an actor, bimbo actor, when you're an actor and you say
that,
and you say you want to be a doctor, it feels like an enormous leap. Like no one's going to believe me that I can actually do this. And it took me a while to believe that I could do it.
So when was that?
Actually, my friend Helen believed in me, and she said, "You're smart enough. Of course you can do it." And I think we all need that, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I'm surprised
how low in confidence we can be.
Yeah, I'm surprised how people don't think they can do that when it's not that hard. Now that I've done it, it's not that hard. And things like delivering babies or looking after someone when they're hurt. I just go, yeah, you can do that. Of course you can. And I think the communities think, no, we can't. That's like crazy. Someone's been in a car accident or someone's having a baby in front of us. Like, we can't. We don't have the capacity to deal with that. And I think, yeah, you can. It's actually, take a few courses. There's a lot that you can do.
A lot of courses.
Well, it's
take a lot of courses.
A few courses would be better than, a lot of courses would be better. Courses.
Yeah.
But I think people should have some confidence in dealing with the crises. In fact, we've already been doing it for so long. We just don't get, we just haven't, I think, historically gotten enough support to keep doing it. But now there's better support.
Oh, and I want to hear about that. So I wonder if you could go into your PowerPoint and then we could come back into some more questions about your pathway. Does that sound like something going to work? And then maybe we could have some questions from the audience before I even get into these, because I think people out there really want to get to know you, Dr. Adams, a little bit more and about your work as well as on webinar.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here for a particular reason. I want to describe my new function in the new First Nations Health Authority. First Nations Health Authority was transferred, or is the result of the transfer of responsibilities and authorities to run our own health programs from Health Canada. And my office within the First Nations Health Authority is new. It's called the Office of the Chief Medical Officer, and I think it would be helpful to describe to people how this office will help you in your work. So I brought 10 slides. I'll try not to take too long. but it will hopefully help people with their questions and with their framing and understanding of how the First Nations Health Authority works in the big scene, and then what we're doing as a team of 15 people in my office.
Superb. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's go to the first slide, which is the Office of the Chief Medical Officer at the First Nations Health Authority. It's to describe our initial planning. Thank you. And let's go to the next slide. So just a reminder to everyone that the mission of the First Nations Health Authority, let's go to the next slide. Thank you, that's me. Thanks.
Yeah, so just use the down button right there.
Got it.
Okay.
So the mission of the First Nations Health Authority is to support BC First Nations individuals, families, and communities. So that's really the point of this whole slide, is we're meant to help the people. We're not meant necessarily to, like in the old days of Health Canada, report to Ottawa or report to the bureaucracy or serve the bureaucracy. Here we very clearly state our responsibility is to the people. So right now there are 5 of us in my office, me as the CMO or the Chief Medical Officer, and 3 senior medical officers who are the former medical officers from Health Canada. These 3 doctors, my new team, have public health and primary care responsibilities, and we're expanding them out. So before, for instance, we didn't do call.
You do call now?
We're going to start doing call.
No, what does call look like?
So call is just the idea that sometimes people require 24/7 service. So
yes. So if there's an emerging issue that comes up, like an oil spill?
Yeah, so an oil spill doesn't necessarily happen between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. Mm-hmm. Maybe it happens later. And so how do you help respond to that? And so the doctors, my team of doctors is meant to be on call and help with those. And crises are not just like spills. A crisis can be like a suicide or a suicide attempt, and the workers in the community should have some ability to make contact with us for help when they need it. It's not, and it's for emergencies. It's not for things like, oh, we've run out of latex gloves in our clinic.
Right.
Can you send some? It's really, something extraordinary is happening, and you need to know about it right now.
Can you name at this point the SMOs, the senior medical officers?
I can name 2 of them because the third SMO is in flux.
Okay.
So Shannon Waters and Naomi Dove are the first 2, and we're negotiating to hire a third SMO, senior medical officer, now.
Great.
Yeah.
That's exciting. And so people in the communities can get in touch, or health directors or with you for an emergency. Is there there's a 911 number, or is there?
No, if they just call the front desk of the First Nations Health Authority, there's a recording after 5 p.m.
Okay.
that tells you who's on call.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So we're working on our work plans, which includes ideas like call, ideas like bringing family doctors and GPs closer to home, so that, because communities are telling us they want to have better access to doctors. That makes sense to us.
Yeah.
Another thing they're asking for, quite a few communities are saying we would like to have birthing
in our communities.
Closer to home, because we're having to travel quite far to have our babies. Can you help with that? So we've promised to help with that, and there's quite a lot that we can do.
Wow.
To affect that for sure. And that means like asking other doctors, can you help out with this service?
Right.
And asking the physician organizations to help us get the word out to their doctors to come and help. Yeah. So it's that's one of the other objectives for them.
So that's actually, it's different than in some ways, right? Because
it's a
lots of, normally, like the old model didn't actually take care of anything to do with frontline primary care.
That's right. And the communities were very often left to their own devices. They're still the leads.
Yeah.
You know, they manage a lot of their own business, but we're meant to be better partners and to back them up better than we have in the past.
Great.
Yeah. Another thing that we're doing, and this involves UBC, a third thing that we're doing is trying to get Indigenous physicians closer to home.
Right.
UBC does a great job of training Aboriginal
physicians. We're working on all the other ones, that's for sure.
Yeah,
but
and so
yes.
we should create a place where they can work. So
yes.
We're trying to connect as part of our work plan with
figure out
you
the
and
model
with
that we
communities,
need
like
to
how can we
develop.
get those doctors out there?
Yeah.
Because we know from research, and it kind of makes sense if you hear it, Aboriginal doctors tend to work with Aboriginal clients, especially if you give them a chance, especially
That's
if you
right.
say to them, yeah, go here, go there, that site is all set up for you to work with.
Yes. And that's what the physicians need, don't they? They need to know that there's a place to work and that they're wanted, right?
Yes.
And I think that with the FNHA, we could be more on the ball. So when they get their training here,
yes,
or when they come to work here, they can actually stay.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So I think having doctors closer to you is going to be a really great thing. So I've just posted for another senior medical officer. My team of doctors is meant to be, at least 5 or 6 of us.
Great.
And that is going to close on April 22nd. I'll have a medical director as well.
Oh, so that's someone different.
That's someone to help with primary care, as I described. Actually, the senior medical officers and the medical director will both have responsibility for primary care. But the medical director is going to work more directly with primary care doctors, and the senior medical officers will work with doctors around health services being a determinant of health. So the quality of the health service you receive can be a factor in your health outcomes.
Oh, we know that.
Yes, exactly.
In many ways. Like, are you talking about the gaps? Are you talking about cultural safety?
Everything.
Are you all of that? Okay.
Yeah, access to health services is a determinant. And so we have to examine those health services, whereas the medical director is looking solely at physician services. Yeah. I'll have a senior aide to help me stick handle.
Yep.
And I'll have a patient quality person. A quality person is someone who looks at the quality of services, but also the safety of services. This is like a complaints person, because we get questions all the time. Oh, this happened, this nurse was disrespectful to us in our encounter. We went to emerge and the doctor failed to make a diagnosis on the first visit. Was that bad care? Was that racist and negligent of that person? Like, what happened? So we investigate those kinds of questions and complaints, like on an individual level, but also from communities. Like the community can say things like, we're worried our doctor's not prescribing this medication well. Or at an institutional level, like when people say, oh, my mother fell while she was in hospital. How did that happen? Like, did the hospital do something wrong? So our plan then is to deal with those complaints.
Wow. That's fantastic.
It's a big deal.
That sounds like a pretty big job, too.
Yes.
And proper processes in place so people can be heard, but also,
Yes, and
the goal is actually to create better service, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And we hear lots of incredible stories from community members, things that you would just never think of, like, the nurse asked one of the parents to leave after a delivery. Because the other parent who didn't deliver was there with another child, and the nurse thought the other child was too noisy, so she said, "Oh, you and your child have to leave." And so their question was, is the nurse allowed to do that? In our culture, the family's supposed to be together.
Everyone's supposed to be there.
Yeah, so we have to then take that question and try and answer it so that people are happy, right? Like, we don't, our intention with health is a good outcome, not to have you leave and say, wow, that was a really colonial, racist, and debasing, disrespectful experience. I never want to go there again. I want to avoid that.
Wow, that's amazing.
And we're also going to be much more outward facing as a team. so that we're serving people instead of serving Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have much more regional responsibilities. So I'm literally sending my doctors to the regions and to First Nations, and so they should. Some of our doctors aren't First Nations people.
Yeah.
They haven't grown up with our cultures. They need to know our cultures better. Like, they need to be culturally competent in order to help us. So they can't learn that without being in community. So they're going to go and learn stuff, but they're also going to go and listen to what the communities need and want, and they're going to go and serve.
Right.
So whatever needs doing, well, not everything. Like maybe the clinic's bathroom needs cleaning, but they're not necessarily going to do that.
Right.
But they're going to go and hear what needs doing.
And is that going to be brought back to the table?
Absolutely.
Is that how that you imagine that?
Yes, and that's a big change for those doctors, because they used to work for Ottawa, and now they work for the people. It's really a change for them. Yeah, those poor doctors, their whole work plan is completely different than
I think it's really exciting, because I think it would be fantastic to be part of a team that could actually try to problem solve, because some of these challenges are really challenging, right? They're big challenges, right? Yes. So if they weren't complicated, then they would have been solved
a long time
before.
Ago. That's right.
But this sounds fabulous.
Yeah, so increased regionalization, increased service to individual First Nations, this increased support for primary care, and this quality role. So we have some public health activities. Public health is really looking after a group of people as opposed to individual people. And part of our job then is to monitor the health of the people. I know that sounds kind of weird, but and it's called surveillance, which makes people really quite nervous.
Yes. But we're changing that word, aren't we?
No, we haven't found a good word for it.
We haven't found enough. But I think you've talked about it before in the terms of watchman, right? Like from your traditional.
That's right.
So a watchman is making sure that things are okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just one.
Is a traditional figure on top of a totem pole that looks out over the ocean and or the village, and if danger's coming, they're supposed to start talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's the idea, is that we're supposed to watch over and sound the alarm if something weird is going on.
Yeah.
Like H1N1 is a good example of something weird that was happening, and we had to
figure that out. Yeah, and maybe you could explain that a little bit for people that don't know when you mean H1N1 and your response.
Yeah. So surveillance would mean that we were getting data, like we were getting weekly flu reports from First Nations communities, and we wanted to answer things like, what's the morbidity and mortality rate amongst children, amongst pregnant women, amongst the elders? Like, who's getting sick, and are they getting sick more often or in a worse fashion with worse outcomes than the general population? So that flu watch was meant to give us an idea of how we were doing, and luckily H1N1 turned out to be not a bad flu at all.
For our communities.
For our communities, didn't have a high morbidity and mortality rate, as bad as we thought it would be.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's
exactly the kind of thing that our monitoring, our surveillance watches over. And we watch over a whole bunch of other stuff, all kinds of communicable diseases.
It'd be good to hear about what those are.
Sure. So there are reportable illnesses that we're monitoring as well, like HIV, hepatitis C, certain sexually transmitted infections.
Really?
Oh,
They're reportable?
Yeah, they're reportable. Oh, you didn't know that? Yeah.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah.
That means it actually.
So we're told about. No, we're not told individuals' names.
Oh, okay.
We're just given
a report on the numbers, a trend.
Really.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
got
like,
it.
Syphilis, First Nations people.
All right.
You're
got
doing
it.
better than the
got
general
it.
population. You're
got
doing
it.
worse than the general population.
Got
and
it.
we react and try and help.
Okay. Got it.
And tuberculosis is another reportable disease where.
Now, isn't that increasing again with our people and communities? It's made a comeback?
Well, TB never went away. It was, a huge killer.
Yeah.
It was a huge killer for a long time until the advent of antibiotics at the end of the Second World War.
Yeah.
But now we have pockets of outbreaks in BC, usually among the population, because TB is airborne. You can catch it from each other very easily.
Especially when we're living close together.
Yeah.
Right.
So you can get a sudden outcropping of new cases, and then it takes a long time to settle it down. The treatment is long. So those are examples of things that we're monitoring, and a score of others. And part of our decision making is what's important to monitor. Is breastfeeding rates important to monitor, or is it not? Is grade 7 completion a good indicator of child health and success?
How do you know what to monitor? How do you decide what to monitor?
Well, we debated with between the public health officials. We're trained to monitor these issues, so we discuss. What do you think is the best thing to monitor? And we have to listen to communities.
Yeah.
Communities
and they're telling us different things, aren't they?
They are. They're saying you should monitor this, you should monitor that, because it helps us. Yeah. Helps us understand it. It helps us plan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could go on a little tangent there, but I've noticed that you're starting to monitor other things that what we wouldn't normally call public health, like perhaps working, employment, or other determinants that occur in our community, and indigenous things that are culture, for example, that doesn't happen in the rest of the population that we consider a determinant of our health.
That's right, and it's not monitored necessarily in other provinces either. We're very groundbreaking here in BC. Yeah, things like self-rated health. Like, do you think you're healthy? And our numbers are actually pretty good for young people and for First Nations people in the province compared to other jurisdictions, compared to other provinces. Yeah. So surveillance is an area that we're working in, and it's just one. We also report on the health of people.
And who do you report to? The people?
No, we report to the people,
Okay.
So we're to issue reports to First Nations about their own people's health.
Right.
We're meant to be a good partner to collaborate with other institutions, like the BC Cancer Agency has cancer data that they would like to match to our First Nations data so that we can see a picture of First Nations cancers. And no one really has that capacity anywhere else in the country, but we can do that. So,
have you done this?
Yes, we've done that.
Okay, because data has been a big, and sharing of that knowledge has been a big challenge.
Yes, and of course we still have stuff to work out, like do First Nations, or are First Nations okay with us reporting on their cancer rates? Because it can be a bit touchy, like what if our outcomes are worse than the general population? Do First Nations feel like we're stigmatizing them? What if our rates are better, or appear to be better? Then we have to start wondering, like why would our health be protected compared to the general population? And what can we supposition safely? Because we would just be suppositioning, we would just be guessing. Because all of this, any trends would need further investigation as to the causes. So as long as everyone's okay with us looking at the data and doing our work of, we supposition, we recommend, we need more study, this is good quality data, or we actually don't think this is truthful data, all of those issues come up. But data's, I'm not sure if the audience is falling asleep or not on that.
Okay, let's go on.
We'll try and keep going.
We'll make sure people don't fall asleep. All right. Sorry about that.
Yes, absolutely. There's time for Q&A. Is it time for Q&A?
Is it time for Q&A already? Let's.
Oh,
there's lots of questions.
Great.
Should we do a Q&A, or do you want to finish this?
I'll just finish this next one, which is that traditional practices are a part of our health services. I'll have a traditional medicine specialist on my staff whose job is to help us, because I'm not sure if the audience remembers the two First Nations girls in Ontario who had cancer.
Yes, that's a big issue.
Refused Western medicine and went to traditional medicine and complementary and integrated medicines to try and deal with their cancers, and that could easily have been here. But I think in BC it would have been different in that I think cancer doctors and traditional medicine people are closer together. I think they would consider themselves more on the same team than in another province.
Right.
I'm just trying to say that we're extremely open. We've heard the people say that they want their traditional medicine with them. They don't want to have to leave it behind in order to participate in the modern health system. We completely agree.
Yeah. And so I'm not sure about the circumstances there, but perhaps traditional medicine wasn't acknowledged to be part of the treatment.
Yes, and I think as well, the doctors trying to remove the child in order to force her into treatment was probably a good way to divorce themselves from the goodwill of the family.
Totally awful.
That was really sad.
Yeah, really. Okay, so let me...
So we have some questions then.
We do.
Great.
And I'm wondering if we could hear on video conference first whether there are any questions. And I will find out what the questions are on screen, because it shows me my connection is lost. So I'm reconnecting here. So any on video conference, do we have any questions for Dr. Adams? I see Crystal from Bonaparte waving. Crystal, go ahead and unmute.
Greetings, Leah and Dr.
Hi,
Adams.
nice to see you.
Good to see you. It's different to be on the other end. My question is about the family physicians, Dr. Adams. In this community, we currently have no local physicians at the Ashcroft Hospital and Medical Clinic. We're definitely we have been understaffed locally, and we are not finding in the immediate region, which is an hour in any direction, 100 Mile, Lillooet, Kamloops, Merritt, it's really hard for us to find a family physician. So, I mean, I had a serious case here that when the service is needed, we're not able to access primary care. And I'm glad that you're doing this presentation, because part of my concern is that, you know, we're falling through the cracks. Like, people are getting to that point of not having the basic family physician. So I'm glad to hear that, you know, that we can come to you or pieces of the medical officers team to get that support and the recruitment, because we are definitely, and I was just asking what, when we were fully staffed here locally, there was 3 full-time doctors, and currently our last doctor is that's left in the area has handed in his resignation. So when you talk about not burning people out, that's the other thing, is there's such a high need in this area. I think, you know, the recruitment toughest piece is a really tough piece, is retaining them, as we heard with the nursing. Now we're experiencing the doctors being burned out in this area, and the high expectation of, now that we have 1 doctor left down to 0, basically, how do we help our members here to get the basic GP services? So that was one area that I kind of want some further direction with as a health director. The second piece is the complaints process when we do actually receive bad medical care, where a 12-year-old was sent home as recently as yesterday. The nurses felt that he didn't need to be seen by a physician, but yet when the physician came, was treated poorly. Like, I mean, you know, it was a serious enough case where the child was needed rehydration, and there was other underlying issues, and they were asking for referrals to specialists, right? That so I guess those 2 pieces of how we can recruit or assist with that piece for basic GP services, and the complaints process. I wasn't sure if that was established or if that's in process.
Okay.
Thank you, Crystal. So the 2 questions from Crystal were, how can we recruit and retain physicians? Because what we were seeing with nurses, and that's always been an issue with nurses in communities, we are now seeing with physicians, and this is what they're experiencing that region. And the second is, what is the complaints process?
Sure. Great. So I understand that recruitment is a very painful process for some communities, trying to have a doctor come and work in their area. And then once they're there, how do you retain them? So we can work with you on that, because we have access through the Doctors of BC and through the Divisions of Family Practice. We have access to all of the doctors in the province, and we can help them stay with you. In that there are probably some expectations that can be managed, like, you know, don't call the doctor at midnight for a hangnail, and you know, they'll be much more likely to stay. that if you have problem patients, that maybe we can help manage them. If there are other staff who can assist the doctor, like the best scenario is always an interdisciplinary team, then let's set that up, so that there's not just the doctor, but there's the doctor and the nurse and the administrative assistant, there's the physio and access to specialists that's happening. And doctors like to work often together as opposed to alone.
Mm-hmm.
So we can try and help arrange all of those things so that you have the best possible setup for the doctor and they're more likely to stay. As far as the complaints process, that's not set up yet. We just closed the posting and we're going to interviews like in the next week or two, so that complaints person will be up, I'm hoping, by June. And yes, we will expect everything from the nurse was rude to that whole entire medical team caused the death of an individual and everything in between. And of course, I'm concerned about a nurse being rude, appearing to be rude, but I'd like to spend more time on those areas where there are questions of competence and liability. What else can I say? And also trying to separate the complaints of a bad outcome from the complaints of bad service.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes a bad outcome doesn't have anything to do with the doctor. It's just something bad happened, and people want to kind of give voice. This terrible thing happened to our family, and was there anything we could have done about it?
Mm-hmm.
And then we trigger an investigation, and sometimes it comes back as everything was done correctly. It just turned out badly.
Yes. And sometimes some of those things happen because exactly people are overworked or overburdened and they don't know how to handle the workload.
Or something like, my child had a cold and it turned into pneumonia.
Yeah.
Did someone screw up?
Yeah.
And sometimes the answer is going to be no. Sometimes a cold turns into pneumonia. And the medical establishment caught it in a reasonable amount of time. No one was being negligent. It just, your child got pneumonia, and we're sorry, but maybe it was no one's fault. It just occurred. So that's one where the answer is obvious. But there's everything in between, from no fault to a lot of fault. Who's going to make it better?
Yeah, I think good question, Crystal, and I think I think there's going to be a place. Obviously, You're not the only person, and I think we hear about these stories a lot.
And people should have. Sorry to add on at the last second. People should have answers to their questions, because if you feel like a doctor or nurse contributed to your mother's death, you deserve an answer,
Mm-hmm.
or else you live with that the rest of your life.
That's
that horrible feeling.
And so
we can help you find that answer.
Yeah, and usually there are complaints processes, but perhaps this person is partly the advocate to help navigate that system, because there's the College of Physicians and Surgeons.
The College of Physicians and Surgeons has a complaints process, but they've only ever had one complaint of racism, up until about a year ago. They've only ever had one complaint. So the complaints process is not really kind of reaching everyone.
And it's hard too, right? Because people don't want to lose the only people that they have caring for them in the community. So it's better to have somebody than nobody at all.
And we do advise complaining can affect your service. It can. And so if you're going to complain, for instance, we had a recent complaint where I advised the family, I wouldn't complain in the middle of the care of your loved one. If you want to complain, I would do it once your loved one leaves the hospital. Like, that's just better timing.
Oh gosh, totally. Okay, I have a couple of webinar questions here. Someone says, oh my goodness, and I'm trying to find all of these many questions. So, dental health. Could you please touch on the mandate for updating the process for First Nations on dental care in a timely and adequate manner? And is that something that comes under the public health mandate?
No, doesn't come under the public
Okay.
health mandate, but I can talk about changes we're making to dental care.
Okay.
In that we have greatly reduced the time for reimbursement, like from, actually I shouldn't guess any of the numbers, but it's been a
it's
considerable,
an issue, right?
a considerable improvement
Yeah.
in waiting times, and we're reviewing our what's it called?
Remuneration process?
No, it's a process where you ask for a review of the decision that was made. Like you can,
Oh, I see.
You can say, oh, can someone look at it again? So we're reviewing that process so that it's much more patient friendly.
Yeah.
Like for instance, if a child needs dental care, and the price being offered by the local dentist is really high, and we say, can you find it at a lower price? And the community member says, well, we can, except that dentist is 200 kilometers away. We would say, well, then we'll pay the higher price because that's what the child needs. It's more timely. So the cost factor isn't the only factor. There's the human factor of timeliness and patient satisfaction. So we're looking at quality in lots of different ways, because believe me, we've heard from tens of thousands of people that the dental process is unsatisfactory.
Oh, I know, and of course, it's
okay, maybe hundreds of thousands of people that dental process needs
it's such a big deal, of course, because we know of dentists that have refused service because they're not being paid in a timely manner, right?
Yeah,
and we don't want that happening.
That we're paying is too low.
Right. Yeah. So that definitely needs to be addressed. So everyone, it's being addressed.
I'm hydrating. Sorry.
He's hydrating. He's hydrating. And yes, addressed. Okay. Any other imminent questions? Maybe we can just continue on with this, and we'll come back for more questions.
Yeah. Okay.
How about that?
So back to the PowerPoint.
Back to the PowerPoint, and I'm just checking the time. It's about 5 to 2. We are planning to go until 2:30 with everyone. So if that's okay, we'll have more time for questions to make sure that we can get as many answered as possible.
Great. So our job is to partner, and I've mentioned that before, and to support the response to public health emergencies. So a good example of that is when there's a spill that we're called into, that affects First Nations, we're called in to help. Because usually a spill involves a number of communities, including a First Nations community. So it's very seldom that a spill would only be or an environmental issue would only affect a First Nation or only affect the town. So we're included in those emergency calls. And we're meant to contribute to the global knowledge of Indigenous health and healthcare. So we have this higher goal of sharing what we've learned with others.
Through presentations, through reports?
We actually have visits from other jurisdictions, because our work is really quite cutting edge internationally.
And nationally. I think many other provinces are looking at what's happening here, which is exciting too.
And it makes sense to me that we would, as First Nations people, look after our own.
Yes.
It's terrible that it's cutting edge. that we're allowed to look after ourselves.
Yeah.
And that in other places, the Crown looks after Indigenous people. So we're doing it, and others are saying, "Wow, you're really doing it?" Yeah, we're doing it. So we're trying to advance high-quality clinical care for all to address the specific needs of different individual First Nations. So we're really trying to hear, because the issues from one community to the next are different. If you look to Duncan, which has 3,000
Cowichan? I think there's more, isn't there? 7,000 or something?
Oh my gosh, there are thousands in their nation,
right?
and they have literally over 100 workers, and they're close to Victoria and Nanaimo and tertiary care. Their concerns are going to be different than a small community that's relatively isolated and still trying to get some of the basics of care. Yeah. So we're listening. We're doing public outreach and stakeholder engagement. So recently, for instance, we were asked to comment on basic issues like, does chlorination cause more cancer in First Nations? Do First Nations people need to get childhood vaccines, or can we rely on traditional treatments?
Really?
And so we're asked to comment on those, and we are. Prevention, so protecting your health. We shouldn't just be caring for you when you're messed up. We can actually be with you when you're well and say, let's keep you well. Let's create events where, say, there's a run, a 10K run, and a public health event. And
You're telling me what I didn't do this year. Oh my gosh.
You didn't sign up for a 10K.
I didn't sign up for Sun Run.
Why?
Oh my God, because I'm out of shape.
Because you're out of shape.
I'm working too hard. Just don't go there. I'm going to get there.
Okay.
I promise. I'm bound.
Notice I'm not harassing her. She's harassing
I
herself.
know. But you have that look.
I don't have
You
any
have that
look.
look. Yes, you do.
It's just my bloody eye. It's just making you
This
a bit
benevolent
nervous.
look. This look like, Leah, take care of yourself. This is our doctor, everyone. This is our doctor, and this is how he takes care of us. It's all good. It's all
I
good.
remember an elder saying to me, "Why aren't you taking time to look after yourself?" And I thought, okay, is that good or is that bad? Because I feel like she's asking in a caring way, but she's also saying I look terrible.
That's right.
How come you're not taking time to look after yourself?
Yeah, that's
It's
a
a
good
fair
question.
Yeah.
That's a good
You're
question.
working too hard, eh? To change that.
Not everybody is. Everyone's working too
Everyone.
hard. We're all about that. This is the question we all need to ask, and our world is demanding it in lots of ways, and we feel that we need to do it, and this is our time. So it's finding that balance. Right?
Well, I think really, if we're going to be true to our ways, we would find our balance.
Yeah.
Like if our workplaces were traditional places, they would say you must find your balance. You must be whole in your approach. So don't stay too long at work and neglect your kids and neglect your spirit and your body. So I take that to heart.
Hi, Chika. Thank you for that.
I think our communities are saying let's find our balance.
Let's find a balance.
We're engaged in prevention, screening, research, quality
Yeah.
improvement of our services. We're interested in the performance of the system, like how quickly does grandma get her aspirin when she has pain, and you know, aspirin's a metaphor for all kinds of services and medications, and pain is, or a headache is just a metaphor for all kinds of conditions, but how quickly is our system responding? And we wish to co-create, to collaborate, be transparent, and to show leadership in health. So our goals and objectives are to have medical and clinical staff in place with established standards for you, for direction and leadership on behalf of the First Nations Health Authority to key stakeholders, including but not limited to professional regulatory bodies, health authorities, federal, provincial, and international government departments, educational bodies, and physician organizations, and others. So we as a group of doctors are interacting at quite a high level with a number of institutions to make sure that they're responsive.
And being strategic about that.
Yeah.
So that's quite the task, isn't it?
It is.
To be not only individual, personal, community-based, and to respond to that, but also really thinking at the higher level things that need to be done. And it may not be apparent to everyone all the stuff that needs to be done in order to change things, and how sometimes slow and incremental those things are.
I think for physicians, we can say to them, now I know you didn't learn this in school, but you know that Canada is built on Indigenous roots. There are people who are here and you live in someone's territories. You have a responsibility to serve all populations, including those distinct Indigenous populations, and you should be a good neighbor to them. They need you, they deserve your help, and they're currently underserved if their health outcomes are bad. So saying that to them and then getting them to help out is one of the things that that we do. And it's amazing what can happen if you say that to them, because you know the doctors of BC, for instance, say to us, "Oh yeah, we're concerned about Aboriginal people. They're 4% of the population, and we know that they live in small communities that need help." And we say, "Oh, wait a minute, let's reframe that. You live in their territories. You're wealthy because you know, their wealth is lent to you. You have an obligation for egalitarianism. You don't just serve well white people, you have to serve Aboriginal people who are having trouble, and not enough is being done. So let's go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
I
quite
love
something.
the way that's framed. That's beautiful. Someone on webinar has asked about how does nursing fit into the organizational plan,
Sure.
and we also have midwives as well.
Great.
Yeah. So
Okay.
how does that fit in?
So we have a group of nurses at the First Nations Health Authority centrally
Yes.
who help out with nurses who are distributed out to the regions
Awesome.
and to
Yeah.
the communities. They're not under me.
Right.
They're not under my department.
Okay.
But we, the doctors, are meant to help those nurses out. We haven't found out how that's done yet, though. So
That'll be interesting
It will
because that's a very good. I think that's an awesome question
Yeah.
because, again, you
Yeah.
know, physicians are often at the lead of this, and this is wonderful that you are and physicians are. There's amazing physicians, but the workers out there are largely
Yeah.
nurses.
well, I'm the
Right.
physician lead.
Yes.
And there will be a nurse lead
Yeah.
whose job is to lead the nurses,
Right.
help the nurses, build structures so that the nurses are supported and happy
Yeah.
and effective,
Yeah.
and working to a high standard as well.
Yeah.
So that nurse lead is not there yet, and we
Okay.
don't know where that nurse lead will be placed, whether with me or in a separate office.
It feels like it would be good to be collaborative,
Well,
doesn't
some
it?
people say it would
Yeah.
be great if nurses worked with the doctors very closely, and others say, maybe they should be separate because their work is so different one from the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and nurses shouldn't be under doctors. Doctors
Yeah.
shouldn't be under nurses.
Right.
Maybe their
The
work is
collaborative.
separate, and
Yeah.
they're just partners.
Partners. Yeah. Got it.
Let's see. And midwives, we would very much like to put more midwives into communities and bring birthing closer home. We don't know how to do that yet because we've only had our mandate for like 18 months.
Yeah.
We'll
So
get there.
it'll take time. And we've had midwives here in the Learning Circle. There's some First Nations midwives as well,
Great.
which is fantastic,
Yeah.
and doulas as well.
Yes, exactly.
And UBC, of course, has a midwifery program, so within family practice, right? So there are more and more midwives graduating.
Yes, great.
So
We need to create spots for them so they can
Totally.
work.
birthing back in the communities, right?
Imagine.
Part of the plan.
Yes, absolutely. The community's been very clear.
Yeah.
We want our babies born.
We want to live and die. We want to be born and die in the
Yeah.
community.
And what's more colonial than being forced to have your baby away from your homeland?
Yeah.
That never happened until colonial days. So we hear people
I
when
know,
they say,
right?
it's traditional to be born in the bosom of your family,
Mhm.
not in a medical institution
Yeah.
many hours away.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you want to share anything else on there, or should we go for some
Yeah,
more
why don't
questions?
we ask?
Okay, I'm gonna on video conference if you have any more questions. And here we go. Mental health support in communities. I'm wondering if the FNHA will address when people return to the communities without all those supports they had in treatment for 6 weeks. Perhaps they've done some addictions work or other work. There seems to be no way to help these people integrate their new teachings and ways of coping when returning home. That's a big question.
Can you hear that? Can you read that last part again? There seems to be
There's no way to help people integrate into what they've got from new teachings and ways of coping when they return home. So when people come back from treatment, and this is a big issue around in our communities, of course, is that gap between all of that new stuff, bringing it into the community, and there doesn't seem to be the same support systems, or maybe there's old triggers, or all of those things that create unwellness around mental health.
I don't know if there's no way to help someone coming back from treatment, because remember, people have been coming back from treatment for a long time, like years, decades.
Yeah.
And so some communities have some capacity
Yes.
to help someone who's newly back.
And there are some really amazing communities that are doing that work
And there are
out
some
there.
really great drug and alcohol counselors who can help. And there are some great mental health programs from the health authorities, for sure. And I think when you're at the beginning of treatment, you're not really that aware of the the options. So, for instance, that there are lay people who've been through treatment who can help you, and that there are elders, and that there are cultural workers who we may not be immediately thinking of who can be supportive. We can also ask our families to support our sobriety, even if they don't know how to do it today. Maybe tomorrow, or in the future, they can be great partners to us. Yeah. So.
But maybe it's about the gaps with other healthcare providers. It's maybe part of it too, right?
And I totally take the criticism that there's much more that we can do. We can put more supports in place. We have to deal with it because some drugs and alcohol are still an incredible burden, and we still see a lot of people suffering with that scourge. So definitely our mental health plan is called a mental health and substance use plan.
Yeah.
And has many recommendations in it around how to support substance misuse and sobriety in communities.
Okay, so is that a document that we can look at?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
So that's great. So there is a document that has been created by the First Nations Health Authority
That's right.
on health planning and what. And of course, sometimes it takes a while for these things to actually be put into place. So right now it's understanding what are some of the challenges that people and communities are facing.
Yes.
And what are some things that we can do to move towards these? It might not happen right away.
Someone who has an illness that requires 6 weeks of residential care is phenomenally, like from our point of view, phenomenally unwell. We're putting a lot of resources into that person. That's longer than someone who's broken a hip and had hip replacement. That's longer than someone going for chemo. Like in the scale of things, someone with addictions issues is someone very far down the road of being unwell and requiring phenomenal investment. And usually addictions are a lifelong illness. They're in and out for often a lifetime. So I think the expectation that we'll go from not being very good at it to being extraordinarily good at it, from providing 6 weeks of care to providing 24/7 care for a lifetime is, not a great expectation. It's not realistic. We can grow it though. We can grow the care and supports for people with addictions issues, for sure. And it means asking many people to help.
Great. I'll see. That was the one question. Do we have any other questions from video conference? Right at this point. I would say no. So, did you want to just continue with this? And then I've got some more questions for you.
We have some long-term priorities.
Okay.
Around advising physician associations, deploying regional physician resources, and asking them for their cultural competency.
Taking the ICC, the Indigenous Cultural Competency, for example.
And that's the beginning. But cultural competency is not just around the new learner. I think cultural competency needs to be, well, first of all, it needs to be regional.
It's a practice. It's also a practice, isn't it?
It is, and it's also regional. Like, whatever nation you're close to when you're working, like you need to know that area very, very well. Like their language, their cultural traditions, their ceremonies, and be respectfully engaged with them. And cultural competence hints at also cultural work, or the cultural abilities of our workers, like you and me. Like how culturally competent are we in our language, in singing our songs, in leading ceremony? I think we're asking workers, First Nations workers, to be better at those things. And it's surprising how shy we are.
I agree.
That we say, you want me to learn how to do the opening prayer in our language? Oh, you want me to do the opening ceremony? I've never done that. And we're saying, well, we're demanding.
You need to go to your elders and learn those things.
Yeah, because that's part of our way. we can't say, oh, that's not important anymore, or I can't say, oh, I'm the doctor, I don't have to do that. We have to.
This is your public
Step
health
up.
doctor speaking, and
Yeah.
this is one of our keys to wellness,
It's
isn't
part
it?
of our wellness.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I did a test recently around my mental, emotional, physical, spiritual health, and I did well on my physical health. I was surprised I did well on my emotional health. I was. I was surprised my mental health was pretty good, and I completely bombed out on my spiritual well-being. And I thought, how did that happen? I thought my spirit was
Good.
and then I thought, oh, all those things that I'm asked to do to be a good kainu, a good Sliammon person, I don't really take care of those.
What would those be?
Oh, like how to be a good person is to be kind, to be patient, to be good to others, like to treat each other well is, and I'm used to, I'm the boss, I'm the dad, I have to take care of this and this. I don't really think about, am I being a good person? Am I following our traditions? Because our traditions tell us how to be good people. And my dad tells me, in a way he tells me, you're kind of making it up. That's not how it works. Traditions, you have to learn them and you have to practice them. So maybe you think you know how to hunt, but you never go hunting. So go hunting.
So
Like
have you gone hunting?
No, not yet, but I'm going to.
Okay.
And I've gone fishing, and I've done ceremony, and I started singing. And I was in ceremony a couple of days ago.
Nice.
That was really, I
A big
thought,
house ceremony?
this makes, no, it was a cold water bath, like a morning, a daybreak ceremony.
Nice.
It really helped me. So I stopped thinking, I'm too busy and important to say no. My spiritual well-being is terrible, and I have to get back to it. It's time. I'm almost 50. Holy cow! All these things I've left behind. So I think the ask is the same for others.
To make the time for that.
To make the time for their cultural inheritance, and to learn it.
Yeah.
Not make it up. But
well, that's the thing, because many of us, of course, lost language or never knew it to begin with, or trying to think of which relative actually even knew the language, right? So there's that. I know there's people in our workspace here now, like Lena and Davina, are taking their language again, which is so great, right?
Yes.
And
I hope their workplace supports them in that, in saying, those are important skills.
Yes.
Of course, you should have time to learn your language better, and to have time for ceremony or to be with the people.
Yeah.
Like so. If we're asked to go on a canoe journey, we would seriously consider it. We would say, that's an important part of
our learning.
Well-being.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I wish we would all do that more, like in all aspects. But maybe, again, this is where First Nations people can lead the way. Because we've said this is part of our, what we should be doing. We teach that, but to actually practice it, it takes a real commitment.
Mm-hmm. It does. It's really something. So I'm hoping that you will hear, here at the Learning Circle, that you'll hear from cultural practitioners to remind us about its importance and how to accomplish it, and to have their influence, to have their good feeling and their wisdom imparted back to us.
I agree, and we've been privileged to have many of those circles recently around medicines and sharing some of that knowledge. There's many great teachers out there.
Good.
So, and this might be some way, and there's also, of course, the very personal ways that people.
So when because we are definitely a First Nations organization, a First Nations health organization, and so when we really hear the communities talk about health, they really do say, you have to be balanced. Your health is here, 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 and here. It's not just, being a smarty pants doctor. It's, are you a good human being? Are you supportive of community? are you transmitting knowledge in the way that we've done for generations? And you have to say, okay, I work for you, of course, if that's what's important. That's
So
what
is this what helps you do your job, like just to go
Well, it's so nice to come
go
back
to
to
that? Because your position is pretty demanding. Like you are, you know, the doctor for all of us, really, and in some ways, with the supports, all the other people as well that make this happen, which is all of us. But so you're the role model, right?
I guess
as
so.
well as.
But I am finding balance. Like I think we all can. It means saying no. Because really, people could keep me busy 24/7. Really, like I went to a community of 1,200 people last week, and I swear 600 of them wanted to meet me, like to have a meeting with me to talk about issues, and I had to say, no, I can't do it. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Just today, someone asked me, can you help my son with their homework? And I had to say, no, that's not my job. I can't. I don't do homework. Sorry.
Yeah.
So you know, there's a limit. Of course, you know, in that case, it's obvious I should not do that, and I should spend time with my own children.
But sometimes it's harder to know, right, where that is.
But as long as you know, I have to create balance.
Yeah.
I cannot be out of balance. I can't neglect my kids. I can't not, you know, neglect my body. I can't forget about being a good person. It's just not. It's not right. You know? What's
the hardest thing about this work? Is it about the balance, or is it about
the balance
going to lots of boring meetings, or maybe there's some really exciting meetings? I don't know. What is the hardest thing?
For me, the hardest part is really what's important. It's kind of like being in a merge, where you say, okay, I have to look at this X-ray. Someone's got diarrhea, and someone's been in a car accident. Which one do I go to first? The car accident, right? Like you prioritize, and you're thinking on your feet. Someone has asked me to get water, or someone's asked me to get Tylenol. You know, the water is sometimes good. You have to show caring to some people. The Tylenol's for fever, or I really should need to fit those both in. And then other things like, oh, will you review this hangnail? You go, no, I don't do hangnails. Not important. Someone else can review the hangnail, or they can just deal with their own hangnail.
Yeah.
It feels. You feel a bit bad. And sometimes you have time to deal with the hangnail.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just say, I did my best today. I had to not deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything that keeps you up at night?
The interpersonal relationships keep me up at night. And then you're always trying to keep people happy. But it's like running a family, right? Like, I don't know how many of your family members go to bed unhappy at night.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're hoping it's not every night.
Yeah.
But most nights, right?
Yeah.
Most nights you're trying to do your best to make sure they're happy.
I think that's why you're well suited to this work, I think, is because you do really care about the people. You've always told that to me.
Yeah.
It's always been evident to me. So even though you may not see Dr. Adams all the time, everyone out there, he definitely is wanting to make sure that everyone's happy. And you can't always do that, right?
No, I'm sure that some people say, oh, the last time I saw him, you know, he didn't have time to chat with me.
Yeah.
But then, you know, I'm often on the phone with people who's like, literally their mothers are dying, and I'm helping them. It's like, I can't stop and talk to you about my new pants. Sorry, I'm dealing with someone who's, you know, dying right now.
Yeah.
And so, but I think if you're someone who's gossiping about me or anyone else, saying, "Oh, so and so was so snotty,"
you should hear what I told you last time.
That's their problem,
for sure.
Right? And
that's
not mine.
true.
So I do trust the universe somewhat, and I say, I really am doing my best almost every minute of every day. And if you want to tell others I'm a bad person, then that's yours, and
not
I'm okay.
mine. Yeah, that's good. That's good that you can do that, because it's hard not to.
Well, it's part of being responsible.
Take it on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I can't do your kids' homework. Like, that's just really not my job.
Okay, let me see if there's another question. Cancer plan question.
Yes.
I've heard the First Nations Health Authority has a cancer strategy.
We're working on it.
Is there a source we can reference?
We are working on a cancer strategy, absolutely. And cancer is so common. There's no one in New Country who hasn't been affected by cancer amongst their friends and family members. So we thought
Isn't
it's
that
time for
a
us.
relatively new phenomenon? Didn't it used to be that our rates were much lower?
That's
Was
right.
that because
But we're
it wasn't
catching up.
tracked, or is it just because we're just catching up?
We don't know why.
Okay.
BC First Nations cancer rates were so low for so long.
Yeah.
But now they're climbing, and we're almost at the same levels of others. So we don't know why.
Okay.
We suspect it's partly to do with our
Western
lifestyle
diet,
and
lifestyle.
Western, a decreased quality of food, a decreased quality of air and water, our lack of physical activity compared to our last generation. We can guess, but we haven't proven it
Yeah.
yet.
Mm.
I mean, the good news is that we used to have quite low cancer rates generally. Maybe we can get back to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Through doing that sun run. Right? Okay, so is there a source we can reference? Is the cancer strategy ready yet, or?
The cancer strategy is not ready yet,
Okay,
and there's a cancer pathway as well that's in development.
Okay.
But we will be talking about that at Gathering Wisdom. We'll be presenting the first iteration of
which
the
is
framework.
in May.
Which is in May, yeah.
Sometime. I
6th
can't
and
remember.
7th.
6th and 7th.
Yeah, so
Okay.
in 4 weeks we'll be presenting it to the public.
I've got a personal question. Evan, are you still in clinical practice, or are you devoting all your time to the First Nations Health Authority?
I'm not in clinical practice. I'm not
Okay,
seeing
so you did
patients
stop
anymore.
doing that.
I did.
You were doing that for a while.
Yeah, for a long while.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine how you could.
Yeah, it was very, very hard work. It's hard work seeing
being on
individual
the ground.
clients for
Yeah.
sure, and I miss it because that was the bulk of my training. But it's also great doing population and public health.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. Now, if you were to, I think we have time for one more question on video conference, and then I think we'll have like a closing statement from Dr. Adams. So do we have any other questions out there from our video conference audience or from webinar? Nothing out there. Okay. It's all good. Nothing. Okay. So here is what I want. There's two things I'd like from you, Dr. Adams, right now. You've already talked a little bit about how you take care of yourself. And here's the two questions. One is, what is your long-term vision for the FNHA?
Okay.
And if you were to give a message, the second thing is, if you were to give a message to all of these frontline workers out here and on webinar land about taking care of themselves and supporting their own work and resilience, how would you say that?
Sure. Well, my vision is for us to have a world-class health system, unparalleled in any country for our people, and I think we can get there. We're already really good at a lot of things in BC, and I know we're kind of used to framing our health system in a poor light, but our outcomes are really comparable to some of the best. And I know we can get better, because if we're in charge of our own stuff, we're personally interested in making it happen, right? Like, I know you don't want to have to wait 8 weeks to see a specialist. I know that you don't want to spend so much money that there's no money left for your daughter or your grandma. So we as customer owners can reform that system. Last of all, I just want to remind people of looking after themselves. I remember an exchange on Facebook where a young man said, I called the First Nations Health Authority about funding for my glasses. They said they would call me back in 5 minutes, and it's been half an hour. It must be Indians running that show.
Oh my gosh.
And then the next
themselves
one,
so badly.
The next remark was from his aunt saying, get off Facebook, get on the phone, get your own glasses, fix it, and stop calling us all down. And I thought, that's so perfect. What a great reminder.
What a great reminder.
That really we're in charge of our own stuff. Like, we're helping. UBC's supposed to be helping, and Auntie's supposed to be helping, but really they're my classes. Like, I should be the one spending the most time on it. So if the expectation is that the First Nations Health Authority is going to look after us, or Mom's going to look after
Taking
her,
personal responsibility.
No. It's me. Like, I'm the lead in my own well-being, and I really want people to take that to heart. Like, really be the change that you want. And I had a wonderful lesson the other day. I was learning to weave with cedar, and the teacher was saying, make the cedar do what you want. Don't let it just bend this way and that way and have the cedar sticking out all over the place in your headband. You're the one who's making it. Make it the way you want it to be. And I thought, oh, that's another reminder about our own mastery, our own the things that we have to take care of. And I hope you know that I take my own mastery of my own stuff very seriously. It's mine. I'll do it. I'll take care of it. So ditto for all of us. We're going to look after ourselves, right?
That's absolutely. And yes, we have to be the example.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And for all of us out there, I guess that's part of our message, right? How are you going to take care of yourself today?
Yes, great question.
So you can continue to do the hard work that you do in communities. What can you do to be well? And how can you help someone else be well as well, I guess, by being well, right? Okay, I've got one more question, even though that message was a really nice closing message, I think. But maybe we can answer those questions. We can send them to you and we will answer them back on webinar. It was around incorporating traditional healing and incorporating how to incorporate dental health within the FNHA, unless you want to. No. Yeah?
Let's deal with that. I can post an answer.
Okay, to those another time.
Great.
All right.
Great questions. Thank you.
Great questions. Everyone, Haichika, everyone, for being here with us today. I hope it was informative. I really enjoyed sitting with you. It's been so long.
It's nice
oh
to
my
talk to you.
gosh, I love it.
Yeah, we talked about some
And you're
ideas
doing
that are
some
further than.
good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, really amazing work. I want to thank everyone that's in here today from UBC Learning Circle, as well as over at the First Nations Health Authority, Rob Preston, who's been, and Stephen Prevost and Gurwinder are behind the scenes, but this is Rob's last day, so thank you, Rob. This is a really nice way to end, I think, with Dr. Adams. And yes, Haichika, thank you for everything, and it will, references and some answers to questions will be online.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.